In terms of the Saints offense,
Is he talking about us in the Saints game?
Yeah.
Last year, I think it was week 10.
Right. Because I don't think he's referring to like the actual Saints offense with like Jameis or with Taysom, but I think he's referring to like when we played them.
Yeah.
And how we did have
Kenny was running down the block for Najee.
We had the was that the same game where no, Connor had his long jet sweep run versus
I think that was to close it out.
To close it out, right?
I think that was to close it out.
Yeah.
Or it might have been Steven Sims.
Yeah, Sims, that's what it was. Connor had his versus Connor had his versus the Bucks. Versus the Bucks when we ain't had no DBs beating Tom Brady. Connor had his at home at Akashore running around to the right side to ice it. Steven Sims was the one down there versus the Saints to finish it. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Nah, man. I can see that, though. And I do think to an extent we will have some of that. Because that's Canada. I mean, that's a part of him. That's part of, honestly, I know people don't like it always. I'm a fan of that element of his game, especially throughout these first 2 seasons when our offensive line hasn't been the best. Because all of the different misdirection that you see pre-snap, post-snap, every time we've seen a Steven Sims jet across the line after the ball has been snapped, or you see Gunner jetting across, or they actually give it to him on a jet sweep, any of that type of stuff, it's messing with your linebackers and your safeties' eyes. And you just trying to get those dudes to slow down to try to give your offensive line a little bit of help because they haven't been the most, productive in terms of clearing out rushing lanes and stuff like that, or even in pass protection. So that's where you see a lot of that misdirection type of stuff. But I think that that's going to continue because that's how Canada likes to operate. I just hope that we'll have even more production now because the offensive line is actually going to be better. So now that half a second that we were trying to utilize to just stalemate, so to speak, now we're going to be using that to ultimately get an advantage. And now by the time those LBs or safeties finally do react, now is Najee already getting ahead of steam instead of it being, all right, Najee's about to get met at the offensive line. Oh, he only got met on the one. He got 1 yard before he got hit, not minus, 2 yards in the back for getting hit. Now I just think that with that same type of misdirection stuff that we've been seeing with the upgraded offensive line, it'll just make it better. So I do think we will see that continuing on, though.
Well, did you see some of his comments?
I did not.
They did an interview with him, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, and I think this got some people a little concerned, a little bit up in an uproar, because he basically said, we found our identity last year, and I don't think there's going to be much of a change heading into 2023.
Yeah.
So people see the headline and say, or they read it and it's
overreact to it.
Offense not going to change much, or like it's going to be the same identity. But honestly,
that's what it's supposed
I was
to be,
thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, if you were to ask me, that's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's just open it up a little bit more.
So when he says it's not going to change a lot, what he's referring to is literally everything's the same except the small changes were hitting the deep ball.
Right.
That's
taking some shots downfield.
That's literally what he's referring to. But once again, if you haven't followed the context, like obviously we do, and a lot of y'all that rock with the show do, then you're not going to see that context. You're just going to simply read it and say, "Oh my God, we're going to see this again."
You forget that a lot of people did not like our offense last year,
even when
as a totality.
Yeah,
but I liked what we were doing after the bye
because there were two very different styles of offense that we saw pre-bye versus post-bye. But like I said, you would have to actually acknowledge the context, and to acknowledge the context, you'd have to acknowledge that Kenny and Matt Canada did do positive things in the second half of the season. That doesn't always follow the narrative, though, that has been placed on those dudes at times. So that's also part of the reason why when that headline gets out there like that, the reaction is ultimately what it is, man. But yeah, I don't.
And he said he doesn't necessarily have control of the offensive game plan. Which, again, on the surface, dude, you're the coordinator. You should. But then it's like, Tomlin's the head coach. Absolutely. I feel like he gets to dictate that, and then you draw up the plays to match that. Right. Because he's looking at the full game as how can we win as a team, both offense, defensively, and special teams. If
we throwing the ball, but we're going 3 and outs, or we're scoring too quick, that doesn't set us up for success. We need to be able to body punch these people. We need to be able to wear them down and ultimately get this into the fourth quarter. And if that's the communication, then as the coordinator, that's on him to go out there and execute that. You can act like you bigger and badder than Coach T all you want, but that's how you get fired. You work your whole life to get to this spot. You ain't about to do something silly just to get fired because of your pride or your ego. Nah, because them dudes don't last. So, I mean, he's not lying. Yeah, I get it, man. Yeah.